In a certain village, deep in the heart of the land, a woman named Robbie stood frozen in her kitchen. Her husband, Joro, was on the floor, his eyes bulging, his lips foaming, his hands clawing at his throat. Seconds ago, he was laughing. Seconds ago, he was devouring the food she cooked. Now, he was dead. The firewood under the pot crackled. The smell of the rich soup still filled the room. But Joro would never eat again. Outside, the villagers laughed, unaware of the horror inside. But soon, they would hear her scream. Soon, they would know that something had awakened in their land. Something that would never rest. Joro was not a good husband. He was cruel, selfish, and mean. He refused to give Robbie money for food, yet whenever she cooked, he would grab the entire pot, eat everything, and leave her hungry. Robbie begged. He laughed. She cried. He beat her. One day, hunger became stronger than fear. She met a kind stranger in the market who gave her money. Eat something, he said. That night, she cooked a rich, thick soup. Joro snatched the pot as usual, stuffing the food into his mouth. But this time, he choked. This time, he clawed at his chest. This time, he fell and never got up. Robbie stood over his body, her breath shaking. It had worked. But she wanted more. She walked for hours, past the river, past the ancient trees, into the forbidden forest where no one dared to go. The air was thick. The ground felt alive beneath her feet. At the center of the forest was a hut made of bones and dried skulls. Inside, Malam Dogo, the native doctor, sat with red-stained hands. He smiled before she could speak. You wish for power, he said. Robbie knelt before him. If a woman buys food with another man's money and her husband eats it, he must die, she whispered. Malam Dogo chuckled. He reached into a black pot, pulling out a charm wrapped in red cloth. The curse will never leave, he said. It will never be broken. Robbie took it. The deal was sealed. The curse spread like an invisible wind. Binta's husband died after dinner. Then Musa. Then Yakubu. Strong men, healthy men, collapsing after a meal. The village grew tense. The pattern was clear. It happened after food. Only to men. Only after meals cooked by their wives. The elders called a meeting. Fear filled the air. Something unnatural was happening. And they needed to know why. Desperate, the elders summoned Baba Kara, an ancient herbalist. His eyes were blind, but he saw more than any man alive. In the village square, he burned strange leaves. Smoke curled into the sky, twisting into shapes. His eyes rolled back. Then he spoke. The food is cursed, he whispered. Not by poison, but by betrayal. The villagers gasped. If a woman takes money from another man and buys food, if her husband eats it, he will die. A heavy silence fell. Then, one by one, the widows were questioned. Their voices trembled. Their answers were the same. The truth was out. The chief's voice shook with fear as he declared. No married woman shall take money from another man for food. If her husband dies after eating, she will be banished. The first woman caught was Aisha. Her husband had just died. The villagers didn't wait. They dragged her to the village edge. You will never return, the chief said. Aisha screamed, begged, but the forest swallowed her whole. That night, a cold wind blew. And somewhere, deep in the trees, a voice whispered. The curse is never full. Women gripped their cooking pots with trembling hands. Men stared at their wives with suspicion. Some refused to eat. Others demanded to see the source of the money used for food. Some even forced their wives to swear before ancestors. One evening, a trader named Idris stared at his plate. Where did you get the money for this? He asked his wife. She hesitated. He pushed the food away. I'm not hungry. That night, he did not sleep. The spirits of the banished women were not at rest. At night, shadows moved at the village's edge. The wind carried voices that no one wanted to hear. The curse is never full, they whispered. It always wants more. People locked their doors, but the whispers found their way in. One by one, more men fell. One by one, more women were dragged screaming into the darkness. But the curse did not stop. The market was no longer a place of laughter. Women refused gifts. No one wanted to be accused. But hunger is stronger than fear. A woman named Sophia accepted a single coin from a stranger. She hesitated, but she bought food for her family. That night, her husband, Umar, ate happily. By morning, he was dead. By evening, she was gone. No one dared to ask where she went. They already knew. One night, a farmer saw a figure standing at the village gate. A woman, her dress torn, her face pale. It was Aisha. But Aisha was gone. Banished. She did not move. She only whispered, "The curse is never full." By morning, she was gone. That night, another appeared. Then another. The village was surrounded. The dead had come back. One by one, the villagers disappeared. Some were taken by the forest. Others were found dead after eating. The village was cursed. At the edge of the trees, the spirits watched. Their whispers never faded. The curse is never full. The villagers abandoned their homes. But the whispers followed. No matter how far they ran, no matter how many rules they made, the curse did not let go. No one was safe. Only one woman remained. Her name was Fatima. She did not run. She did not beg. She stood in the village square, staring into the darkness. "I will not hide," she said. The spirit circled her, whispering her name. But she lit a fire and stood firm. For the first time, the spirits hesitated. Fatima knelt on the ground. "Take me," she whispered. "End the curse." The spirits paused. The wind howled. Then, silence. By morning, Fatima was gone. So were the spirits. The village was free. Or so they thought. Years passed. The village was rebuilt. But no one forgot. One night, a girl walking home from the market heard something. A whisper in the wind. "The curse is never full."